So I made a year and a half worth of short-term vertical video content in less than a 24-hour period. It was technically spread across multiple sessions, across multiple days, but it was less than 24 hours of active work time. I would go as far as to say it's probably less than 12 hours of active work time, but I wasn't timing it that accurately. Now, I've made 2 videos in the past about how to edit shorts in Final Cut Pro, but this is going to be the peak of the trilogy because this is automated using an Elgato Streamdeck. So I am showing some of the edit techniques that I have shown previously in my other videos, but this is the one that's going to really level it up for people who have this extra bit of hardware. If you don't know what it is, the Elgato Streamdeck is basically a set of hotkeys on a panel. The keys are also individual screens, so you can see what the indicator button is, and then you can program them to be basically whatever you want. I've had mine for like a year and haven't even configured it yet because I didn't have a special cable and a hub that meant I could even fit it into my laptop because I just have too many things going on with my setup. But I have managed to actually start using it now, and I was a bit overwhelmed with what I needed to do with it because there are a lot of things I want to do with it. I can hook up all my lights to it, but in this particular instance, I needed to catch up on repurposing my content from long form videos into short form clips that are going to become YouTube shorts primarily, and then reels and TikToks and stuff that I'm going to share out on all my other social media, including even LinkedIn. So that was the one I focused on first. I did do a whole live stream. It lasted about 4 hours. It was actually the most successful live stream I've ever had while still live. I think it had like 60 people watching it while still live, and then the most consecutive viewers I ever had, so that was really nice. If you want to see the entire process as I went step by step and worked it out, then I recommend you go watch that live stream. If you just want to go through the functionality that I ended up using, then stick here. This is probably most beneficial to people who actually know what a Streamdeck is and know how to use the folders. You can see I have got my default profile. It's not very busy right now because I haven't done a lot with it. I'm gonna click through to the next page, and then you can see here the Final Cut Pro icon. So this is all my shortcuts that I've set up for my Final Cut Pro profile. I have attributed the blade button and a few other trim ones, but this is not why we're here. We're here for the create short. Now this is a thing called a multi-action, which is here, and then you would drag it and create a multi-action, and then you go inside the multi-action, and now you can see all the individual actions that actually create the workflow. This is an 11 action multi-action. If you want to edit your shorts a bit differently, then you can do it in a different way, but these are the ways that I have created my shorts in the past. So I have like the clip I've selected. This is the bit you have to do manually. You have to select all the clips you want individually, and then you just cut them out and you put them on your main timeline. Once you have all the clips you want to turn into shorts available on your timeline, then you stack them up next to each other. My typical setup is to apply a Gaussian blur at the back of a duplicate of the thing, so it sort of fills up the whole frame with the color that matches the main video clip, and then it sets it to export in an appropriate 10-bit HDR format. So action 1, I have titled it copy clip, and this is a preset shortcut. So the way Final Cut Pro works is pretty much entirely off shortcut hotkeys. So it will go based off the Final Cut Pro hotkeys you have already attributed. And I'll show you a clip from my live stream here of like how you can assign different hotkey combos. Some actions are unassigned and then you can add a hotkey to them. Some actions have an existing hotkey and then you can change it depending on what you want to do. But this is a pre-existing one. So because I am on a Mac, because Final Cut Pro is an Apple exclusive software, hopefully you're all Apple users, or you aren't just like working on a Hackintosh, because otherwise you might not have this key available. But my first shortcut is Command C, and that is to copy the clip. Then the next one, we're gonna paste the clip. So this means it pastes it above the primary clip because we haven't moved the cursor in this time. We select an up, and then that means we go back to our original clip, which is now below the clip we copied. Then we select again and we silence the relevant clip. Silence was the first key I had to assign a hotkey to within Final Cut Pro. I did a lot of Googling on this one, and although it is a command, it used to exist inherently within Final Cut Pro, now it's a command you have to actually assign a hotkey to. I wanted to make sure I didn't have one that was already in use and I wasn't stealing it from another thing, so I ended up doing a Shift Command S, so that silences one of the clips so we don't end up with this nice little echo thing. And then the next custom thing I had to do in Final Cut Pro, it was one after the other, was I had to create a default effect. So the way you create a default effect in Final Cut Pro is you manually build out the effect you want in your clip, and you would think an effect just means the actual effects tab because there was Gaussian blur, but also the custom effect applies to what attributes you have set up. So mine was like, I think 350% increase on the overall scale because I needed it to widen it because it was originally a landscape clip and then I needed to fill it into a portrait aspect ratio. So it was 350, and then we applied Gaussian blur, and then I set that as my default effect. So anytime I use this hotkey, it will apply my default effect, which is what I set up for what I needed in my shorts process, because I knew this was something I'd be replicating a lot. You can save other effects, but it just won't be saved as your default effect. And my hotkey for using my default effect is Option E, and I'm pretty sure that's what it is for everybody. You would just need to assign a different default effect if you wanted it to look a different way. The next hotkey is the one that I created my second video in the series for, which is highlighting the range tool. So the range tool isn't selecting just this one clip, it is selecting everything in this area of time in the timeline for the duration of the clip you have selected. Okay, so it's entirely reliant on where my cursor is, on what it applies to in the moment. So I have to make sure that my cursor is aligned with the start of the clip underneath the primary storyline, okay? And then we move down to the export key. So Command E, so the shortcut for the range key is just X. And then moving on to the export settings, we have Command E, and that will present the export tab. Now I have set my default export settings to be applicable to how I want to export my short. So it's got the correct color profile, it's got the correct dimension settings, it's got the correct naming theory. And if you haven't got this set up so you want it to be your shorts default, then you just have to export one manually. You can cancel the automation at the export point and then just go back and change the export settings. And then for the duration of your session, it will carry over to what the last selected thing was. So you can just tweak it per session. And then you can work ahead and do your batching out. So export E. To confirm the export settings, because I know I have the export settings, it's just an enter key, so continue it forward. And then it clicks enter again to attempt to save it to your desktop, because then I have the automated pop-up on my laptop where I want it to save to my desktop. At which point I will then name the file appropriately, which is the second step you have to do manually, remember, and then export it to my desktop. Then I will select the whole batch, back it up onto my hard drive in the appropriate file, upload it to the back end of YouTube, which will then later, once they're publicized, be fed into my RSS feeds to go into all my other social media, which is a whole other video which I can link in the description and on the tab below. And then I will delete the set that is saved to my desktop so I'm not cluttering up my computer. And that was an example of my favorite automation that enabled me to create a 1.5 years worth of shorts in a 24-hour period. And if you're wondering what a 1.5 years worth of shorts means, I mean 283 in less than a day. Just think about that. My schedule is uploading a short to YouTube every other day, and then now I've got a big backlog of that churning out. My other social medias post a short every single day. So that's my time saved. If you want to use the social media automation tool I have that propagates my YouTube feed out into the rest of my social media, then check out Metrical, which is also linked in the description below with a referral code, so you help me out a little bit there. If you want to see more tips like this in the future, now I've got more stuff I want to play with for my new Elgato Streamdeck toy, then make sure you subscribe and maybe you'll see more in the future. Thank you and goodbye.